Hello everyone, it's Farmer Hallie here, and I work for a place called Farmer Frog. But today I'm here in a community garden in Seattle, Washington, on the original homeland of the Coast Salish people, in particular the Duwamish tribe. We're going to be talking about planting seeds today. We're going to plant some in containers that we'll keep indoors, and then that way they can get a head start and later be transplanted into the garden. We're also going to plant some seeds directly into the garden, and we're going to get ready to transplant some of our seedlings that are already big enough to grow outside. Are you excited to start some seeds of your own? All right, one of the first things we need to do is fill our pots with soil. I have a couple different pots here. These are little 4-inch pots, and there's also a biodegradable option as well. And that one, you could just plant directly in the soil when the plant is big enough to go outside. And one of the important things we need to think about is what kind of soil we're filling the pots with. Now, I bought this at a store, and it's a potting mix, but it's specifically a seed starter mix. I definitely recommend that for getting started at home. Also, the potting mix is nice and moist already. You can see it sort of holds its form when I give it a squeeze. If the seed starter mix that you buy is dry and not already wet enough to kind of form a ball with your hands, it's going to be important for you to water it and kind of stir it up. Almost like you're making mud. But we just want it moist enough to form a ball. That's a great way to start off your soil, because otherwise it might be hard to water your soil. The water will just run off the sides of it. Okay, so we're going to fill one of our 4-inch pots. Now you can use a scoop, or you can use a shovel, or you can use the tools attached to the end of your arm, your hands. All right, I'm going to fill it all the way up to the tippy top, and then I'm going to kind of tamp it down by just dropping it about 1 inch and letting it hit the table below. I'll kind of tap it down a little too. So that is the perfect amount of soil for your pots. All right, let's fill one of these biodegradable pots as well. We need the soil to be fluffy, but we don't need there to be too much air mixed in with the soil. All right, you're ready to plant. And we have lots of different types of seeds here. Come on in and take a look. Maybe you recognize those seeds. Perhaps during the fall season, you've enjoyed eating this fruit or even carving this fruit for decorations. What kind of seeds are those? That's right, it's the pumpkin. And those are a pretty large seed. We also have some beans here. This is called a scarlet runner bean. Those are also pretty large seeds. These are an heirloom bean that has been around for 4,000 years or more. Aren't those awesome? They're so beautiful. Now, not all seeds are that big. This seed, called fennel, is quite tiny. We're going to have to be extra careful while we handle these seeds. All right, and we know that these will grow different types of plants. And those different types of plants will have different needs. One of the ways you can learn about the needs of the plants is by reading the back of the seed packet. It's always really cool to check out seed packets and all the information that they will show you. Okay. Now we need to learn how deep to plant our seeds. Since some seeds are big and some seeds are small, like our fennel, they have different depths that they need to be planted. And you can tell because of how big the seed is. In fact, it's called the secret of the seed. The seed wants to be planted 2 times as deep as it is long. And you can just measure with your finger. Here's one length of the seed. Here's another length of the seed. So just about there on my finger. Now let's poke a hole. We're going to plant 2 seeds. So that way we have a guarantee that at least one of them will grow. All right, let's plant our scarlet runner beans. We'll just drop those seeds in, press them down. These ones can go pretty deep into the soil. All right, and then we'll cover it up with soil. Our scarlet runner beans are planted. All right, now we're gonna plant our pumpkin seeds. So I'm gonna use my finger to measure again. 1, 2. Kind of holding a mark on my finger, that's how deep I'm gonna plant it into the soil. Come take a look. All right, and again, I'm gonna plant 2 pumpkin seeds. That way, just in case one doesn't sprout, hopefully the other one will. Awesome. Now that they're planted, you're gonna have to find a place for them to grow. Somewhere with the sun, maybe coming in through a window, or maybe even a grow light. Now, do you think the pumpkin is gonna be able to grow in this pot for its whole life? Nope. In fact, it'll get so big, it needs to be transplanted outside, which we'll talk more about that. Okay, now we're gonna plant the fennel seed. And remember, these ones are really tiny and we have to be pretty careful. I already put about 10 seeds in my hands, and that's more than I'm gonna need for these 2 pots. So if I'm gonna plant 2 seeds in each of these pots, how many fennel seeds do I need? That's right, 4 seeds. And I'll take a close look here. That doesn't need to go very deep into the soil at all. In fact, what I'm going to do is lay them on top of the soil and gently place our fennel seeds, 2 per pot. And then I'm going to grab a handful of soil and just lightly dust them with a layer of soil. And we did that so that the seeds aren't planted too deep below the surface of the soil. So that's a trick you can use for especially tiny seeds. All right, friends, that's how you plant a seed in a pot that's gonna grow maybe in your windowsill or under a grow light, or maybe even in a greenhouse. And then some of our plants are ready to transplant right into our garden bed. Some of our seeds, it's time for them to grow outside. So we don't need to plant them in a pot first. We're gonna go over to the garden bed and we're gonna plant some carrots and some radishes directly in the ground. Come on over with me. Okay, welcome to our garden bed. And here we have one of the kale plants that I've been growing inside under a grow light for at least 6 weeks, maybe more like 8 weeks. And it's ready, big enough to be transplanted outside. Also, the weather is nice enough to where it won't freeze when it's out here. Come on over. All right, I'm gonna plant it next to our overwintered kale plants. So these are in the same family, the brassica family, and they're gonna all be growing right next to each other. But you can see these ones have already made flowers. So this one is much younger. It'll be a long time before it makes flowers. All right, so what do you think? First step that I need to do? The first step I need to do is make sure I have a plan about where they're going to grow. Now these kale plants, they are going to need some space to grow. They probably need to be planted about 10 inches apart from each other. Maybe I can use my foot to be a measuring tool. All right. Okay, now that I know where I'm going to plant it, I'm going to dig a hole. The hole needs to be big enough, basically for the pot to fit right inside of it. That's just about right. Okay, now it's time to loosen my kale seedling from its planter. So I'm going to hold my hand flat underneath it and let the seedling poke through my fingers. Then I'm going to give it a squeeze, sort of dump it out onto my hand. Okay. All right, carefully I'm going to lower that down into the hole. Then I'm going to fill in around it. And give it a little press. We don't need too much air pockets to be trapped in the soil. But before I go, I'm going to make sure that we know what it is by labeling it with a little flag. Kale! Okay. We also have these plants that are ready to go into the garden. These are another relative of the kale plant. These are collard greens. And you can probably tell that it's not just one plant in here. I see 1, 2, 3, 4 collard plants. Do you think they're gonna be able to grow all together in one little clump? They need to be separated out. So we're gonna do that very gently. So the same technique we used before, squeezing the pot, pulling them out, and wow, you can see it's really ready to be transplanted. All of those roots have coiled up. It's time for them to spread out into the garden. It's gonna be a little tricky to separate them out. All right, I'll do so very gently. Sort of gently pulling them apart and letting them sort of naturally fall apart where they will. Okay. We'll try not to break the roots, but a few roots might break along the way. I still got 2 that I need to separate out here. And I'm going to place them just about 10 inches apart from each other as well. All right, we'll save this one for my garden at home. What do you think? Am I done here? Nope. I still need to dig a hole for them to grow, right? I'm going to place it down into the hole. The soil can get up about halfway on its stem. Then I'll fill in the dirt around it and give it a little press. And once I'm done planting all 3, I'll be sure to give it a little label. Collards. Now that we transplanted our kale and our collards, we are going to direct seed some radishes and some carrots. I'm really excited about this. Now I'm looking at the back of the packet for carrots, so I know that these carrots need to be planted with a little bit of space around them. And it sounds like at least 2 inches. And if I'm going to plant multiple rows of carrots, those rows need to also be about 12 inches apart. I hope that makes sense. All right, it looks like the soil is workable. The first step I did was actually kind of rake it and smooth it out. Okay, and now I'm going to mark a straight line just with using a stick so that I can keep track of where I planted my seeds. The stripes that I placed in the soil, 2 for radishes and 2 for carrots. All right, I'm going to start with the radishes. Spacing of plants needs to be 2 inches in all directions. We need them to be covered 1/4 of an inch in light soil. All right. I'm just going to place them into the little path that I created with the stick. All right, then I'm going to tuck them in. Just a light covering of soil. And if you need help remembering how deep 1/4 of an inch is, maybe there's a tool that you can think of that you can use. What is that tool called? That's right, a ruler. Feel free to get your ruler out. Okay, and so I remember where I planted. Be sure to place a sign. And in this case, since I direct seeded, there's also the date. We're planting on April 18th. All right, there's our radishes. Okay, let's plant our carrots. Okay, and let's not forget to make sure we mark where we planted. Carrots planted on April 18th. All right, friends. Gosh, what a wonderful spring day. Today we've learned how to plant seeds in pots that will grow at home or in a greenhouse. We've also learned how to transplant seedlings that are already ready to grow outside. And we've also direct seeded some carrots and some radishes, and they can grow right here in the garden because it's spring and it's time for planting. Now, we've missed a step, but maybe you know what it is. What do you think it is? That's right, I need to water the plants, right? We're gonna take the hose and we're gonna give everything a big drink of water. And that way, hopefully, we'll see some sprouts in about 10 to 12 days. I can't wait to snack on all the foods from the garden. I hope you enjoy growing and planting some things this year as well. And I hope to see you soon. Bye!